We've reserved your ranch for 150 guests. That's the line that hit my phone at 7:30 in the morning while my coffee was still too hot to sip. And I swear my hand shook hard enough to splash the counter, because out the kitchen window, I could already see a bright yellow arrow on the county shoulder pointing straight at my locked gate, like it owned the place, and another arrow up the road, and another all stamped Realtor Caravan 150, all of it, funneling a crowd to a piece of land I work, mend, and pay for. I'm Cole Hartman out in Red Butte County, Colorado, and usually the loudest thing around here is a heifer complaining at a slow bale. But that morning my phone kept buzzing, a confirmation email from the HOA president next door, Marla Benton, telling me my entrance was the final check-in for their caravan. 2:30 p.m. 150 agents trail access, covered by community covenants. And I just laughed once, the dry kind, because community rules stop at their fence line. They don't leap across and wrap around my gate. Right then, a sedan eased over, and a woman in heels stepped onto the gravel. She lifted her phone, asked if this was check-in, because her app geo-fenced my exact coordinates, and I kept it polite. This is a private ranch, ma'am, not a clubhouse, and she looked honestly stunned, like the app never lies. You know what I mean. My neighbor Gus Ortega strolled over with that look he gets when the universe is about to do something dumb. He started taking photos, told me I had maybe 90 minutes before things got loud. And I made the non-emergency call to the sheriff, laid it out clean. Unauthorized signs on the shoulder, a forged reservation vibe, 150 cars about to choke a narrow road. And the dispatcher said a deputy would swing by, which was good, because what came next would have chewed up an unprepared man. Cones sprouted on the right-of-way. A pop-up tent rattled to life, folding chairs dragged along asphalt, and a white van rolled up with a guy in a tool belt who walked straight to my chain like he'd been told he could lay hands on it. I asked him for the nature of the job, and he barely looked up. HOA cleared this. I'm here to ensure access. And that's when my heartbeat got steady instead of fast, because nothing focuses a man like someone announcing they're about to open his gate for an audience. I asked for his certificate of insurance flipped to the additional insured line, and it was blank where my name should be, so I told him calm as Sunday, if somebody trips on my gravel, that paper won't cover me or you. And behind him, a realtor snapped. Just cut it already. We paid, while 10 phones rose like periscopes, and the man with the tools swallowed hard. Said maybe I should call the office, and I nodded. Maybe you should, especially before you cut a lock on private land on camera. I wish that had been the peak, but there's always a clever detour person. Gus jogged up, breathing like he'd sprinted the fence line. Said they were trying the utility road at the back, so we drove around and found a little file of business casual, walking the easement like a public trail. Clipboard, lady announcing the easement gave legal access to the ranch. And I just pointed at the sign that's been there longer than their HOA. Authorized utility personnel only, no public access. And as if we'd rehearsed it, the utility tech for our patch. Trent Lynn pulled up, lifted a binder, said, "This road is for line maintenance, not events, not caravans." Posted a closure notice for that afternoon, and the air went out of that backup plan like a tent in wind. I took my folder of screenshots and photos to the county office, sat down with Dana Whitaker, who's done permits longer than that subdivision has existed. She ran the system. No permit on file for an assembly over 50, let alone 150. Then printed the header on a so-called county consent email. Marla had circled a line, slid it to me, routed from the HOA's bulk mailer. Not our servers, and her voice went from patient to precise. "That's spoofing Mr. Hartman. And it's serious. I don't spook easy, but hearing the word spoofing connected to my land does something sharp to your jaw. Dana highlighted the regulation, where it says written owner, consent for events over 50. Written, not implied, not historically tolerated, not we always walk near there on Saturdays. And then she noticed the attachment metadata. The scanned consent that supposedly dated weeks back had been created the night before, and I walked out holding a folder that felt heavier than paper. Mid-afternoon, my phone lit up with a number I didn't know. I put it on speaker and hit record because this is a one-party consent state, and I have learned to keep receipts. And there she was. Mr. Hartman. This is Marla Benton. She talked about community cooperation and then let the real motive clatter onto the counter. We need 50 confirmed attendees for certification and sponsor status. That's the minimum, and I thought there it is not a friendly tour, a quota. So I asked for the official route, and she emailed it right over HOA logo tidy schedule, and at the bottom in black and white, Ranch Gate check-in, 2:30 p.m., like my place was already on payroll. By 2 the next day, they'd turned the shoulder into a stage, a security guard, with the radio cameras up. A locksmith truck nosed in, and the guy walked to my lock like someone had dared him. I showed him the COI with my name missing, asked if he had owner authorization, and the radio on his side crackled out no's plural, and he took one long look at the phones. I'm not touching this lock without owner consent and proper insurance, and not with cameras on me. Yeah, that happened. Deputy Sloan rolled up then. Big had a steady voice, the kind of calm that makes heat sit down. He read the papers, asked the guard if they had a permit for the tent and cones. On county right-of-way, the radio gave another no, and he said, "Clear it simple as that." And I watched a crowd of professionals break down their own scene while grumbling about 2-hour drives and canceled credits because right on cue, their event app disabled the geofenced check-in. The red pin disappeared. Phones chimed with error messages, and a few voices went flat, no points for today. Gus opened the county GIS on his phone, like a magician revealing the trapdoor tapped the layer until it blinked. Showed the words, "Proposed Public Access Corridor, under review. Not approved, submitted by their HOA 6 months back," and read the fine print about public notice and recorded owner consent required before any right-of-way exists. And you could see it travel across faces. They had taken a draft line on a map and treated it like law. Dana arrived with a tidy stack of forensics, showed the deputy the email headers, proving the fake county consent came from HOA servers, not government systems. And some agent muttered, "She lied to us," while live stream comments flew by like sparks. And I'll be honest, I felt a mix of anger and something like pity, because pressure makes folks do math when they should read law. You know what I mean. The deputy started writing citations for the shoulder encroachment. Marla accepted responsibility on behalf of the board. With a jaw that could slice twine, she tried one last pitch about neighborliness and property values, and he kept it simple. Community relations don't override property law. 6 words that belong on a billboard outside every HOA clubhouse. I didn't give a speech. I just let my zip-tied sign do the talking. No events without written owner permission, because sometimes clarity beats volume, and the rest collapsed like a tent. The locksmith packed up the cones, stacked, the crowd thinned, and in the quiet that followed, I felt that old part of me, the part people used to underestimate, stand up a little taller inside my ribs. That evening, Marla returned with 2 board members and a printed statement. public apology at the next meeting, and posted online geofences corrected to inside HOA grounds. Her event planning duties suspended for a year, pending a policy review. Fines to be paid, and the deputy took copies for his report, while Dana said the county would update the permit portal with a blunt warning about proposed corridors versus approved rights-of-way, which, if you ask me, should have been there from day one. And because life likes a twist, the next email I got came from a different broker entirely. A clean inquiry about hosting something here in the future with a deposit pending owner approval and a COI that already listed me as additional insured was read it over my shoulder and chuckled out. That's how grown-ups ask. Night fell fast and honest. The way it does out here, I walked to the gate and laid a hand on the metal like, "You touch an old friend," thought about how a quiet morning can turn into a showdown and still end with wind through grass and cattle. Shifting in the dark, my mailbox held a certified update from my insurer, spelling out the old truths: invited guests versus trespassers. Events I authorize and insure versus crowds who show up with arrows and apps. And it landed in me like a plumb line. The person who owns the land decides who uses it. Not a quota, not a logo, not a red pin. Here's where folks argue, and I'm inviting it if I had said yes at the last minute. With perfect insurance, a big check, 50 smiles. Would that have been neighborly, or would it have taught the worst lesson? That if you push hard enough and fake confidence long enough, the owner folds. I think saying no was the only way to reset the boundary for everybody watching. But I'm listening. So tell me where you draw the line between community and control. Would you have opened the gate for goodwill or kept it locked to teach the principle? Drop your take in the comments. Tell your story. About the time someone treated your life like their stage, or the time you realized you were the one crossing the line. Hit like if consent isn't optional. Hit subscribe. If you want more real stories where everyday people stand their ground and hey, keep your gates locked and your peace louder than their noise.